Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're working on the secondary coil while we wait for the copper magnet wire for the RF chokes. You might notice that I have completely taken it off. I thought I'm not going to join it, I'll just take it off and start from scratch. Anyway, what I want to do now is mount the secondary coil so it's sturdy and really strong, so when I'm pushing the trolley and the trolley's shaking about, it's not going to come loose. So what I've done is I've got a nice piece of beech, it's really solid wood, and I've countersunk the back and put a bolt in there, and that bolt will hold this and this, because this is going to be glued to this, and the tube of the primary coil is going to sit over this. So all I've got to do now is I need to open this hole, no sorry, not this hole slightly, because I've got a rubber cap that's going in there, as you can see, to block any electricity from coming through and striking the bolt that's going to be holding the whole tube down. So that's going to go on top of there like that, that's going to be glued on there, and then the secondary coil is going to be glued over the top of this. What I normally use for gluing this to this, I will use standard wood glue, but gluing the secondary coil to the base, I will use Gorilla Glue. It's the expands to fill gaps, because you might have noticed that these aren't perfectly round. They're nearly there, but not quite there, because I didn't have a saw to cut round things out, but I managed it anyway. So now I need to drill this out, waller it out. I'll probably use one of these just to waller it out a bit to this size, so it'll fit over the rubber bung, and then I'll glue those two together, and then when this glue's dry, I will glue the secondary coil to this. The rubber bung also serves another function of not letting the threaded bar come through this hole or this hole. I'm just going to do enough so that it fits over nice and tight and keeps it in place to stop the threaded bar coming through. Then I will make the threaded bar come through the bolt by 1/4 of an inch. Oh, I'm not in the right place. The threaded bar will go into here 1/4 of an inch, and then I'll leave enough for it to pass through the worktop, well, the tabletop that I've made, and then there'll be enough to get a nut on this end, along with a ring connector connecting my ground earth to the bottom of the Tesla coil. I've got to drill through here and through here to pass the wire through and down to get to this bolt. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just drill through the side, pull it through. When I've got my threaded bar into here, I'll wrap it around it a few times. Well, you can see I've got a long tail. I'll clean all the epoxy resin off that, and then I'll wrap it around this bolt, and then we'll plonk it onto the table and tighten it up from underneath. So I bored this hole out a bit instead of boring it out of this, because this was a lot bigger and easier to hold. So what I'm going to do is put a dab of super glue around the edge of this hole like so. And then we'll get the bung and place it in, just fits, that's looking. There we go, so that's in there now. I'll just put a little bit around the top. There we go, so I'll leave that to dry naturally. Although I have got some activator somewhere, I'll have to find that. So what we'll do is we'll allow that to dry, then we will get some wood glue and find the centre, glue that down, and then we'll be ready for gluing it to the base of the secondary coil. So it appears I can't get the standard wood glue open. The bottle has sealed itself shut with glue, so I'm going to glue this base on with some super glue. A quick dabble on here, and we'll line it up with the hole. This will probably come back and bite me, hopefully not. So we'll just keep a little bit of pressure on it for a moment. Put a lid back on that before the thing dries out and that becomes impossible to open. So that should be well and truly glued on there by now, yes it is. So that's glued on there now, good and strong. So next we will apply some of the Gorilla Glue just around this ring. And then when we push it in, the glue should slide over, because I don't want too much coming out around here, you see, because it's difficult to clean off for one, and it's difficult to clean off for two. So I need to drill this out. I might actually get one of my lads to drill it, because why not? My arms are very sore today, so I'm just doing little things like this. I think we're glued on. Yeah, definitely glued on. Right, I'll be back when I caught one of my children to drill me a hole right the way through this. So now we have a hole drilled through the base to the other side. We can take the magnet wire from the bottom of the secondary coil and thread it through this hole. Actually, I would like to just make sure that's clean of dust. The secondary coil wire is taped to the inside. So now what I need to do is give it a quick spray with water, because this wood glue is activated by water. So we'll give this a bit of a damp down. so. Just give it a minute to soak in. While we thread this through. Oh, wrong way. Duh. Here we go. There we go. That's it threaded through now. So we're now ready to put the wood glue on. Should I put the wood glue on then thread it through? That might be a better idea. Just get that cloth, push it back a bit. I don't want to get this glue all over everything. Right, so let's go around with the glue. Oh, there we go. So we're going to put the glue around this top piece of wood. And then when we push the base into the secondary coil, hopefully it will... Oh, I'm dripping. Right, spread it around a bit. I think I'm going to have to sacrifice a cloth to one hang on. Right, so that is now glue spread onto it. So now we just need to thread the wire through here. Keep pulling it. Lift the tube up. And then it goes, and then we'll stand it on its end, push it down as hard as we can, and wipe away any excess glue. Oh, this stuff is so messy, it's unbelievable. So we have now got the base fastened down to the plinth that's going to hold the secondary coil stationary so it doesn't vibrate about like this when it's being moved. And second of all, it's also where we're going to connect the base of the secondary coil. So I'm just going to find something heavy-ish to put on the top of this. What have I got? I've got my... That can go there. There we go. I don't have to stand and sit and hold it now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this for however long the glue takes to dry. Hopefully we don't get much seepage because I've got quite a heavy weight on the top. Need this somewhere around here. Even though I put the glue right up the top, we've still got a little bit of seepage around there. It's just quite difficult to clean up sometimes. And this is now soaked into the wood. So I'm going to polyurethane varnish this anyway, so it matches the wood of the Tesla coil base. Well, that's the top at the bottom of the secondary coil finished, all apart from varnishing of this. When I come to do the top, which is a little bit more involved, I'll bring you back and we'll film making the top. Thank you. So as you can see, there's a bolt here that's trapping the wire that comes from the top of the secondary coil up and into this pipe and around here, and that bolt traps it in place. if you can see, you can see the secondary coil wire wrapped around that dowel. That dowel starts here and is in a captive nut that's here. So there's nothing metal inside this tube at all. The metal starts here above the coil, not inside the coil. I've also prepared the bottom with a captive nut that's going to have this wire wrapped around it, and that's going to go through the tabletop, well, the cupboard top that I've made with my primary coil on, and that's going to tighten down to the tabletop, so every time I move it, it's not going to rattle around and things. So yeah, that's how I finished. This is just a separate piece of wood inside here and a separate piece of pipe that I've wood glued onto here with just ordinary wood glue. But before I mounted it on there, I countersunk a hole. You can see the captive bolt right down the bottom that I glued in, that's holding this rod, which is about 4 inches long, which my toroid fastens to. So that's how I did that. And there's wood into this base up to here, because I put two 20mm pieces of wood in there to make this base proper sturdy and not come loose. I used Gorilla Glue for that. The expanding stuff, you can see bits of it around the bottom that I couldn't get off, and that I couldn't really be bothered getting off. I got most of it off. So there you go. That's how I did that. And this is still drying, so we'll come back to that when it's finished. So as you can see, there's a bolt here that's trapping the wire that comes from the top of the secondary coil up and into this piping around here, and that bolt traps it in place. If you can see, you can see the secondary coil wire wrapped around that dowel. That dowel starts here and is in a captive nut that's here. So there's nothing metal inside this tube at all. The metal starts here above the coil, not inside the coil. I've also prepared the bottom with a captive nut that's going to have this wire wrapped around it, and that's going to go through the tabletop, well, the cupboard top that I've made with my primary coil on, and that's going to tighten down to the tabletop, so every time I move it, it's not going to rattle around and things. So yeah, that's how I finished. This is just a separate piece of wood inside here and a separate piece of pipe that I've wood glued onto here with just ordinary wood glue. But before I mounted it on there, I countersunk a hole. You can see the captive bolt right down the bottom that I glued in, that's holding this rod, which is about 4 inches long, which my toroid fastens to. So that's how I did that. And there's wood into this base up to here, because I put two 20mm pieces of wood in there to make this base proper sturdy and not come loose. I used Gorilla Glue for that. The expanding stuff, you can see bits of it around the bottom that I couldn't get off, and that I couldn't really be bothered getting off. I got most of it off. So there you go. That's how I did that. And this is still drying, so we'll come back to that when it's finished.